Do you yearn for travel that involves outdoor adventure and learning? I do. I also have a passion for all things farming and agriculture. I've traveled to exotic jungles to learn about growing chocolate. I even once owned my own organic vegetable and sunflower farm. And now I'm planning my journey back to agriculture. Agritourism, defined as travel that involves some type of agricultural experience. Agritourism is all about entertaining. But the marketing strategist in me knows that at its core, agritourism is really about educating, and education affects change. My future farm needs to deliver a profound experience to all of its visitors. It needs to educate people about food, health, and climate. Join me to learn from experienced agritourism farmers and entrepreneurs and help me build my future farm strategy. And who knows, maybe one day soon you'll find yourself in a tropical jungle cutting open cacao pods with a machete, or savoring an outdoor plant-to-plate community dinner with 100 guests at a farm in Illinois. So let's tap into the agritourist in you. Jim Sanders, farmer from Wildflower Lane Farm in North Carolina, had an idea about growing vegetables and finding a distribution partner for those vegetables. In my podcast interview with Jim, he told the story about walking into the office of a nonprofit called Table and proposing his idea to the women in the office. What struck me about the story was the fact that these women listened and took action immediately. They were open to Jim's idea and took him up on his offer to visit his farm, invest some funds, and take the risk that this could lead to a great opportunity for the people their nonprofit serves. In 2006, Joy MacVane began leaving homemade cookies on the sidewalk of her downtown Chapel Hill home for UNC-CH students walking to campus. A year later, she began leaving notes by the goodies inviting students to stop by her house to bake desserts for the nearby soup kitchen. A dozen students showed up to make and deliver cakes. They discussed how much they enjoyed serving at the homeless shelter, expressed interest in local community service, and identified hungry kids as a special priority. MacVane shared that concern and learned that there were no weekly food assistance services specifically for children at that time in the Chapel Hill-Carrboro area. In late 2007, she and several of those original students incorporated Table Ministries Incorporated, now known as Table. Since its start in 2008, Table has offered a place at the table to increasing numbers of local children. Thanks to generous donations of food, funds, and time by campus and community supporters, Table has quickly grown. And now, thanks to Jim's idea, Table is able to serve fresh, local, healthy vegetables and fruits to local children. I wanted to speak to the woman, the decision maker, who listened to Jim's idea on that day when he casually walked into the office, and who was open to exploring the opportunity with him. Ashton Tippins was that woman. This is Jen Ross, your Agritourist podcast host. If you enjoy our podcasts, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and don't forget to leave a review. Enjoy my conversation with Ashton Tippins.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, Ashton, how are you? I'd like to talk a little bit about the organization itself. I know there's some history about how it came to be. Then I would like to talk about you, and how, what's your background, and then how you came to be in this organization. And then we'll talk a little bit about the connection with Jim Sanders and how he showed up in your storefront one day and kind of what was the thinking, because what intrigued me and made me really happy actually is that he was looking at this opportunity and was open-minded, and you were too, because a lot of people won't think out of the box like you guys have thought, and you've created such a unique model that's benefiting so many more people. And so I want to talk about that and open people's minds to opportunities like that, because I think what you did in allowing that is pretty big. It's really impactful. And I don't think people in it don't always realize it. But from the outside, when I'm looking at all the things that are happening in the world today, I think being open to these types of opportunities is really, really important, especially right now. So with that said,
So Table is a nonprofit in Carrboro, North Carolina, and we have been around for a number of years, 16 years, and we started as a backpack program to deliver bags of food to kids at their schools, and we now deliver healthy non-perishables and produce to kids directly to their homes, as well as provide nutrition education to kids in Orange County, North Carolina.
I read on the website Joy MacVane
Hmm.
started it, and it said something about leaving homemade cookies on the sidewalk of her downtown Chapel Hill home for students walking to campus. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So back in, I say 2006, 2007, Joy lived in downtown Chapel Hill and she had lots of students that would pass by her house. And so she would leave treats out with a note saying, "Take one, have a nice day." And
That's awesome. I
I
would have loved
know,
that.
I would have to. And then one day she invited students, left a note out saying invited them to bake sheet cakes for the local soup kitchen. Well, to her surprise, several UNC students showed up and baked and delivered the cakes and talked about how much they enjoyed it and specifically that they were interested in childhood hunger. And so Joy did some research, and at the time, about 1 in 4 kids were on free and reduced lunches. So 25% of kids in Chapel Hill were on free and reduced lunches. And there was nothing in the area to provide food directly to kids. And so that's exactly how Table started. And that's why it started as a backpack program as well. And so Joy was the founder and volunteer executive director for the first 5 years of Table's existence and has really set the tone for, how the organization operates still even today.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your background. Did you grow up in the area? Tell me a little bit about you and then what brought you here. What was that journey?
Yeah. So I grew up in Alamance County, so the neighboring county to Orange County. And I went to UNC. And while I was at UNC, I started volunteering. I was a Buckley Public Service Scholar, and I had committed to volunteering for 300 hours before that, by the time I graduated. And so I was volunteering in all different places. I was volunteering at a program that tutored young kids. I volunteered actually at a couple of those, one in Carrboro, one in Durham, and then also was volunteering at Table regularly as well. And I loved it. I think one of the things that was really an interesting connection for me is that some of the kids that I was tutoring in Carrboro were receiving food from Table, and so that kind of hit home for me. And
Yeah.
my senior year, their program director they had one staff member, and she was the program director, so kind of running the programs to about 125 kids. And she was making a change, and so I was asked to apply for the program director position. I did, and then worked part-time that summer and full-time as the program director in the fall of August or in the fall of 2012. And then in the spring of 2013, Joy was ready to make a change. She'd been the executive director volunteering for 5 years, and she was ready for something a little different. And so at that point, she had spoken to the board, and they approved that I started serving as the executive director in March of 2013. Joy mentored me for a year plus, and we still stay in touch as well. And it's been an incredible journey just to see Table's growth and change through all of the years and craziness and trying new things out. So it's been a pretty incredible process to be a part of.
What about it keeps you going? What is it that it keeps you going and keeps you focused on this? Hey, it's Jen, your AgriTourist podcast host. I need to interrupt this podcast for a few seconds. I always want to support the people I interview. So if you're planning on visiting the Berkshires this summer and fall season, Dory Schofield, owner of Berkshire Farm Sanctuary and Save a Pet on Long Island, and myself have partnered up to help her create an Agra destination at her sanctuary. We are starting small with 5 exciting chocolate cocktail hours for all of you chocolate lovers out there. You'll start with a chocolate mocktail or a cocktail and indulge in some delicious charcuterie, plant-based of course. Then you will be guided through a chocolate experience and learn how chocolate is made from bean to bar. Savor the tastes of real chocolate from all around the world and depart the farmhouse with some of your favorite chocolate bars in hand. Proceeds support all of Dory's rescued animals at the sanctuary. Remember, there are only 5 dates starting Saturday, July 5th, and once they're booked, that's it. So visit berkshirefarmsanctuary.org or heartbeatfarms.com to register now. Thank you for listening, and I will hand you back over to the podcast.
I have when I started at Table, I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was, of course, just graduating college, had no clue what I wanted to do at that time. And but I tell people all the time now, I'm like, I wouldn't really want to do anything different because I know that I can scrub a toilet or ask for $100,000, and I know what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. And I think for me, it makes it so much more meaningful that it's nutritious food because and honestly it's opened my eyes to eating healthy in ways that I did not necessarily experience growing up. And so I think it's kind of cool to say that, not only do I know that we positively impact kids and families and that we're serving, but I mean, I have experienced the positive impacts and kind of just the awareness and knowledge about what food can do for our bodies if used correctly.
Excellent. So it's not only just who you're serving, but it's serving you personally as well, and probably your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so, so important. So tell me about the current structure of the organization. How many people do you have working? And then what does your volunteer base look like? I just want to understand the structure, and I want to talk about resources, like what kind of income streams you have, given grant challenges of today and probably in the future. Where are your sources of income coming to help fund these campaigns?
Yeah. So we have 9 staff members. That is 6 full-time, 3 part-time. And we depend on about 150 volunteers every week. That's
Wow.
volunteers that come, that's not even special projects. It's actually just literally the volunteer shifts. So people coming in to sort food or help us put up food or pack food or deliver food. So it's taking that many people for us to get the food out to our kids. And then the other question you had was about kind of revenue streams, where we're getting our income or our
Yeah.
revenue.
So are you, like, what's your percentage of grants versus people, corporate, like, I don't know how you break it out, but I'm just curious. Fundraisers. I know I saw one fundraiser that looked really interesting. I want to talk to you about it. It was the soup one.
Empty bowls.
Yeah, that was intriguing to me. So I want to talk about that,
Yeah.
but just give me a sense of your funding, at least how it's been to date, and kind of what your forecasting is, some of the challenges going into the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's been pretty incredible to see that we have experienced diverse funding streams up to this point. In recent years, our grants have been higher. So, I mean, I would say maybe 25 to 30% of our income is grants, which is often, lower than many other organizations. And so about 30 to 40% is individuals as well. So we're absolutely very dependent on grants and private grantors to support our work, but also individuals, especially local individuals, but anyone, that just sees the value of our work and what we're trying to do. And then we do fundraisers. We make connections with local businesses and corporations and religious organizations as well, to raise the funds that we need in any possible way. I think one challenge is that we have seen in recent years just the need just honestly be like through the roof. In February of 2023, when the pandemic benefits ended, we immediately, like within a few weeks, had a wait list of over 200 kids.
Wow.
And have never not had a wait list since then. So on top of the pandemic and all the things that changed for folks, and then of course the end of the benefits that they had been relying on for the previous years, and then on top of that, costs of everything prices going so much higher. And that continues to happen. So it is just a really challenging time for people. And so, yeah, I mean, we've seen this year a wait list of up to 300 kids. And so
Oh,
that's an interesting thing. Like we've been serving 1,100 kids and seeing a wait list of 280 to 300 kids. And so it's taking
wow.
about 6 months for us to feed a child once they are added to our wait list.
Wow. How does that make you feel that there's a wait list?
Yeah.
That must be challenging.
Yeah. I mean, especially when we first had one, I mean, I think it was really heavy for our staff, for the staff, honestly, because it's like
Yeah,
we've never had a wait list. Anybody comes to sign up, we feed them immediately. And
right.
so now, I mean, the way we've been able to manage it is we say, okay, you can take food today, like you can get an emergency food today, and then we'll let you know as soon as we have space in our program. So it absolutely is challenging. I mean, I have three little girls of my own, and so to imagine not being able to feed them and not even just feed them, but feed them with food that I know is good for their bodies,
Right.
I think would be incredibly challenging as a parent.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I'm curious to see how that evolves over the next few years.
Yeah.
But, your team is doing amazing work. So on your website, it says what makes this unique, and it says that our bags of food contain 50% fresh produce, with 30% of it coming from local farms and 50% healthy non-perishables based on dietary guidelines. So Jim Sanders walks into your office from Wildflower Lane Farm. And that was a few years ago, correct?
It was about
Were
7.
you physically there when this happened?
I was.
Okay. So on your side of things, before he came in, what were you thinking about? Were you at 50% fresh produce? Were you guys contemplating making some kind of transition or working with local farms in some way? Like, what was going on in your mind before this angel walks in who wants to do
Yeah.
something with you? So give me your side of the story.
Yeah, we were not at 50% of the produce at all. And I know it had to be right around that time. So this was around 2018. I mean, at some points, we had even thought, wait, is this actually healthier for folks that are immigrants and refugees, for example? So yes, our bags at the time would have been healthier options for Americans. But for immigrants and refugees that came to the country, was it actually healthier? I remember us actively questioning, like, is this is this a good thing for these folks? So it was really tough. And so
That's a
I
really
think,
good question. Most people wouldn't even ask that question. So
yeah,
that's a really
yeah.
good question.
Yeah. And so it was something that we were like, okay, well, we see that this may not be the best for them, but what do we do about it? And I think maybe at that time we were around 30% of fresh food. Maybe it might have even been a little less, but right around there, because I think we hovered around 30-ish% for a while. So then, go
Before
ahead.
you go on, what was the challenge around fresh food? About getting it and distributing it. Was there challenges to why you weren't doing that at the time?
Well, we were giving out fresh food. I think the biggest thing had been like, okay, trying to figure out what were the dietary needs and preferences of folks and how to accommodate all of that. Because we always have had special diet options for people to say, okay, well, I don't want pork, or they could even say, well, I only want fresh food and things like that. But, on some level, it was challenging to do too much of that, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
Yep.
And so I think that's where we were at the time, and I think that has shifted a little bit because we have heard around that time and since then, just people really appreciating the fresh food overall and wanting more and more of it.
Okay.
And so that has allowed us to, in many ways, provide more, as well as not just that, but also Jim. So then when Jim walks in, yes, with this crazy idea,
So he just like walked in, like he
he
just
did. He totally just walked
I
in
love
into
that.
this idea. I know. I know he pitched this idea, and I remember being like a little wary of it because I didn't know him and I didn't know, anything about how this could work. But I remember thinking, okay, well, we need to draw up a contract. So, like, we did this, official and unofficial contract, but it just made it seem a little bit safer because we were committing what felt like a lot of money at the
Now
time.
you
It
went to
wasn't.
the farm like the next day, didn't you, or
We did.
something?
I don't know the timing, but we did. And I don't even
Very,
actually,
very soon after. I know he was
it
like
was
surprised at the action, like
that we,
like that that you took action so quickly because a lot of people, oh, we'll talk about it, a month or two
yeah,
goes
yeah.
by, a meeting goes by, and you don't hear for 6 months. But you took action right away, and I think that that surprised him in such a positive way. And I love that too. I was like, so what made you take such quick action? Like what were you thinking
Gosh.
about this opportunity? Although I know you were being cautious because I
Oh,
would totally understand you don't know this man. Also, growing vegetables is so many things can happen. So
sure.
you're investing money, in someone's skill set and then Mother Nature on top of it.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking like what opportunity were you seeing here?
I don't think I did fully understand, to be honest. I
That's
don't know
okay.
what it was that made me take action. I know what I see looking back, but I don't know what it was. But I do remember myself and Laura, who's also still at Table and has been at Table since 2013 as well. She and I drove out to his house, and I remember being out there and knocking on the door, or her knocking on the door, and then thinking, what are we doing?
I love that.
We don't know this man, and we're showing up in the middle of nowhere too. I don't even think I've told him this. She still remembers that too, because I was like, okay, we're gonna like take some steps to make sure we're safe. So I think I had my phone like ready to go. I don't anyway. So
Oh,
I
that's
did.
smart. You never know. I would be the same way.
Well, it was very much after that, like, while we're in it, what else, what am I gonna do at that point? But anyway, so I think I do know that I was like, okay, well, let's see what he's got to show us, what he's done. And I'm sure that was his suggestion. I'm sure it was. And I didn't know what it could look like. And I think that's what I'm excited to share when we get to that point as well. Like, because of our relationship with Jim and us trying that out, I mean, it's totally become so much bigger and more too. So
So tell me what happened that first. So you basically after seeing, I guess he showed you his farm at the
yes.
time.
Mhm.
What, I don't know if you remember, but what was your impression? Like, what did you and Laura leave with that day?
Gosh, I don't know if I can remember what it was. I must have left thinking, okay, let's pull together a contract and make sure that it's safe-ish for Table, and we can, invest these dollars in him. And I think it was $3,000, which again, for me at the time, it seemed like a lot of money. But
Well,
again,
it
looking
was the
back and
first time you did
exactly.
something like that.
Yes.
And you were taking a risk on a person and a person's
Yes.
abilities. And like I said, Mother Nature and what
Yeah.
you never know what can happen in a season with farming. So
Yeah.
what happened that first season?
So, I mean, we wrote up that contract and we pulled together a few volunteers. I know that it took us a few years to get the volunteers that we needed to support him. But I mean, it was just very obvious the first year that, okay, we've invested $3,000. It may have been a little more in the end. And you have provided so much more produce than that. And so there was never a question after that. It was kind of like, okay, this is incredible. And I mean, ultimately, I mean, Jim is one of our largest donors because we're covering his supplies and then he's donating the food and the labor
Yep.
and the work. And so yeah, it's taken us some time to get I mean, and even for Jim, I mean, he's kind of got a system at this point about, okay, what to grow, when to start it, and things like that. And we have volunteers, and we even have, I think it took us a couple of years to do this as well. We have a part-time staff person that helps him as well. But
Yes, he explained
again,
that. Yep.
yeah, I mean, maybe paying 20% or maybe a little over 20% of what the retail value is of the food that we get from him. And so it's just been incredibly beneficial and supports our kids and allows us to provide them with more produce, and not even just more produce, but the best quality produce they can get, locally grown,
Yes.
organic produce, as well as an opportunity for our volunteers to actually get out there and see it and experience it and do it as well.
So it's such a win-win for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So this program has expanded since 2018 was the date.
I
And
think it was 2018.
okay, so it's expanded and grown almost every year, I presume.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then, and you are you working with you're working with other farms now, correct?
Yes. And so
And
that is the part that I think is what's so cool about it. So because of our relationship with Jim, we were then, within a few years, it took us a few years for sure to be able to see that, wait, we are here to serve local kids and make sure that they have access to healthy food. And what is really cool about that is we can do that in a way that is a benefit to local farmers and our local food system as well and community. And so I think that's what I was alluding to earlier when I was saying I didn't know what it could be. But I think within a few years of partnering with Jim, we saw that, oh, wait, this can be beneficial to other farms and farmers as well. And so our partnerships with other farms look different. It's not that we're necessarily just contributing or covering the supplies and then they are donating the food, but we are supporting them and their farmer. We have one farmer who says, if every farmer had a table, they could stay in farming. And that's really meaningful to us. Like, we're not here just to support farmers, but it's pretty incredible that as we're supporting kids, that we can do that in a way that is beneficial to local farms and to our local food system as well. So without Jim and Wildflower Lane, we would have never done any of that.
no, that's the incredible piece of this is that local farmers are struggling just as much. And a lot of people who want to get into farming, and that's what Jim and I spoke a lot about, is for a new farmer who really is trying to get up and running, this is such a great opportunity for them and to get some funding to be able to deliver. And then obviously the benefit it has on the back end for all these kids. There's a program in the Berkshires in Massachusetts called Heart and Soil Collective. And she's doing something similar, but she's doing it with seniors. And, the farmers are paid for the food, and in turn, everything is donated to seniors. And she also makes soups during the winter months using, certain vegetables from the farms. So the benefit is the whole community is benefiting from that.
Yeah.
So when we have programs like this, they're just so powerful. And I just think that they need to be highlighted. And I think people really need to look at these models and figure out how they can employ them in their own communities, because it's just serving so many people. Okay, so how many farms are you working with today?
I just counted this. I believe it's 5. It might be 6. I just counted it. And then, yes. So,
wow, I didn't realize. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So several farms that we're working directly with. And I think maybe the 6th was we're also partnering with an organization, Farmer Food Share, who works with local or works with North Carolina farmers as well. So that might be why I was questioning the number.
Okay. And do you ever find that, so you're giving produce and non-perishables in bags out. Do you find that people know what to do with this produce? Do you provide tools to them for how to make things? I found that a lot of times when we would donate our food, people were struggling with what to do with it and or have the means to be able to do something with it. So do you have those challenges, or what's your experience there?
It seems like it's come a long way over the years. I mean, I remember early on in my time at Table, I remember there was one little girl who dipped a green bean in peanut butter, which a raw green bean in peanut butter, which doesn't sound very good. And so my point in sharing that simply is that I think that, years ago, it was more common that people didn't know what to do. It seems like that is not as prevalent. I certainly think it's still, it's ongoing. But people know different things at all the time. And so it seems less prevalent. People seem to be more interested in fresh food and wanting to incorporate it into their lives and meals and things like that. And we do also provide nutrition education. We do nutrition kits that we send home once a month to all of our kids. Great. And that's been fairly new. That's only been in the past couple of years that we've been able to do that for all of our kids. And then we send home newsletters and things like that, and then have in-person activities to try new foods and engage our families as well. So there's several different things that we do to try to make sure that families know what foods we're sending home and what they can do with it, as well as like ingredients to be able to do things with that as well. And certainly, I think that's also certainly still a work in progress as well.
Yep. Yep. No, I know that it was challenging sometimes, but yeah, you just got to try things out there. So tell me about that one fundraiser that you do, the soup one.
Yes, empty bowls.
Because I saw the pottery bowls. So what happens at that fundraiser?
So we've been doing that fundraiser for, I think this year will be our 12th year, possibly. It could be 13th, but we have been doing that for a number of years. We partner with local pottery classes, and they make and provide these beautiful bowls of pottery for our event. And then we have the food donated from local restaurants. So it's really pretty simple. It's just soup, bread, and dessert, and then drinks, of course. And I mean, the goal is we do it on a fall day in October. It's beautiful in North Carolina in the fall. We've actually always had beautiful empty bowls days, which we are like waiting on the year that doesn't happen. But and it's a fun, community, relaxing event, and just raises funds for Table. The past couple of years, we've even had a donor or a couple of donors this past year do a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 match. And so that actually has been a pretty incredible addition to the event that we're planning to continue, because it allows us to raise quite a bit of funds for our kids.
So people come and they pay an amount to be able to participate and have
a meal and have a meal, pottery, and then we also
love that. Band. So the pottery is all donated.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. I love the idea.
Yeah, and it's also different. It's interesting. So Empty Bowls is actually like this grassroots event that's all over the country, and maybe even global.
I have to look into this. I missed this one, but I love it.
There's probably one somewhere in your area.
I'm going to look into it. I think it's a very. I love it. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I really love it.
It's been a really fun community gatherer, honestly, for us. So it's been great.
Excellent. So you have this waiting list. Mm-hmm. What do you need? What are you working towards to take away that waiting list? And did you recently, the farms that you have, the 5 or 6 farms that you have right now, did you add any farms this year? And what is your goal? Like, how can we help? What do you need from people to start getting rid of this waiting list?
We did add a farm in 2024, and it's called Faithful Farms. And so that has been wonderful as well. We love partnering with new farms and farmers. It's been really cool to get to know them personally as well. As far as the wait list, I think the big thing that we are looking for is just sustainability. And I mean, ultimately it's funding. We've moved into our warehouse in January 2024. And so for a long time, we were like, well, it's space that's keeping us keeping us from growing to the level that we need to. So now that we're in our warehouse, it's not space, but funding is another big thing. So we have incredible funders and folks that support us, but as the need continues to grow and prices continue to increase, that of course has to increase as well. And so I think that's the big one, because we don't want to add a child and then all of a sudden the next year say, sorry, we don't have the funds to continue. And so it's really important for us to operate sustainably before we start adding children, because we want to make sure that we can serve them as long as they need to be served.
Right. And that's so important, so important. And it's an excellent point. When you reflect back on the last several years as executive director or the program manager when you first started, what is a moment or two that was very impactful to you that really resonated with you? I know you might have to think about this for a sec, but something that really resonated with you and really demonstrated the need and the impact of your organization on that need.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I have a couple picked out in my head, but I don't, I mean, I feel like it's not quite, it won't cover it all, I guess, if that makes sense, but maybe I can expand on it. So I know, I mean, we've gotten, well, let me just share. I'll share my stories and then see if anything else comes to
Yeah.
mind. Okay, so there was one year, it's been a number of years at this point, where we had snow unexpectedly. And so we usually try to make a plan for weather so that we can make sure that our kids get food during that time and they're not missing food, because then they're missing school meals and then missing food from table as well. So there was one intern and I that were delivering to an apartment complex. And when we were delivering to one apartment in particular, one of the little girls looked at her sister and said, "See, I told you they would come." And so I think that one is one that I experienced personally, that where we could see, just the value that this had on the family and the kids directly as well, that it was so meaningful to them that, they were questioning, wait, are they gonna be able to make it in the in the weather? And
Yep.
then this sweet, hopeful sister was like, I knew they'd make it. I knew they'd get here. So I think that's one
That's
from
beautiful.
a number of years ago. I think too, this isn't so much a story, but just an experience. I think that through the pandemic, we immediately started delivering to kids at their homes. Like the very week that the schools closed, we started delivering to kids at their homes. And we were like, okay, 2 weeks, we can do this. Because we'd done it before, just for inclement weather. And it was really, I was pregnant with my second daughter, and it was a really tough time on our staff as well, because, everybody was scared, didn't know what to do and what they could do and what was safe and what wasn't. And so it was questioned, like, do we continue? Do we continue to serve in this way? And I think for me, it just felt like convicting to say, okay, well, yeah, we're just going to stop, because that felt like so inequitable, because we, the people managing in power over the food would say, no, we're not going to continue. And so that just felt so wrong to stop. And it was, like I said, a very tough spring and summer, and very challenging on the staff. But as I look back, I think we learned so much, but also I think just knowing that we had families that were depending on us, and the community saw it. So, I mean, we saw community support pour in the year of the pandemic in 2021. We saw community support pour in because they realized, wait, wow, basic needs aren't going to be able to be met. So I think that's just kind of one experience. And then one of the most recent ones, this is more about how we do our work rather than a direct support to one of our kids. But we had a volunteer and donor just mentioned to me just over email. He was like, when you walk in the doors at Table, the kindness is palpable. And that was really meaningful to me, because I think he hit the nail on the head. And I think that it just kind of hits like the heart behind what we're doing, that it's not just, I don't know, to grow for the sake of growing or whatever else it might be, but truly, like, to be able to serve our kids effectively, we want to make sure that it's done well and that we're caring for them. And not only are we caring for our kids, but the way that we're caring for our kids, we're also able to care for our volunteers and our donors and farmers and partners and things like that. So those are the things that came to mind.
Excellent. No, that's beautiful. So I have one final question for you. So from Jim's farm, what's your favorite vegetable that he grows?
Oh goodness, I have to say,
Come on, you have to have a favorite.
Yeah, I do.
Something you look forward to every
I have
season.
to say his tomatoes. He has some incredible. They're the cherry tomatoes. I think they're sunburst, sun something.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
And I remember going to his farm and picking them off the tomato
Yes.
plant.
It's like candy.
Yes. So I would have to say the tomatoes. I mean, I would say I'd loved all of it. I would love all of it and to receive any of it, the lettuce, the peppers, the cucumbers, especially. But I think if I had to pick one, I would have to say the tomatoes.
Yeah, it sounded that way then when he was describing it. And I
Yeah.
know when I was on my farm, that was the greatest snack during that season.
Yeah.
Just have to go in
Yeah.
the fields and grab some. Oh, it's delicious.
One of my daughter, we went one time to a farm day. My daughter was maybe 1.5, 2, something. She must have been, yeah, something like that. And she always said she didn't like tomatoes and still sometimes does. Well, she's out playing hot. And then I think the only thing that we had that day were it was like a cucumber tomato salad. And she had 2 full cups of that cucumber and tomato salad. And I was like, oh, maybe you do like tomatoes. And it just seems to be the
Exactly.
right circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes the type of tomato, like
Yeah, that matters
sometimes,
too.
yeah, sometimes the grape tomatoes, it's that sometimes they don't like that mush in your mouth, like that
Yeah.
squirt in your mouth. So the grape
Yeah.
tomatoes don't squirt as much as some of the rounder
The
cherry
bigger
tomatoes. So
ones,
you
yeah.
really, yeah, I know my kids used to, yeah, they used to go for certain ones, but
Yeah.
yeah, from what he described, his tomatoes sounded amazing. So,
I
yes,
would have to say yes to that.
just love the fact that these two organizations have come together and are just having such a tremendous impact on both farms and the need in the community. And on top of it, are providing, nutritious food, not just packaged goods and
Right.
stuff like that. So not that all packaged goods are bad, but
Right.
we need fresh fruits and
Right.
vegetables from local
Agreed.
farms, and we need to focus on helping and sustaining our regional food systems. Hence what happened with COVID. We really
Hmm.
need to focus on that. And you are helping to build that in your area. So
Yeah.
amazing stuff. I will get this out there so more people know about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we would love to share this as well. So once you get Jim's up
Absolutely.
and then mine, please feel free to share it and we'll share it on our end as well.
Excellent. I hope our AgriTourist podcast prompts you to think more about where your food comes from, whether it be your vegetables, fruits, meats, and even those sweet treats. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with someone you think may truly benefit from or be inspired by it. Visit us at agra-tourist.com. Until next time. So I was recently listening to one of the Grounded in Maine podcasts produced by Amy Fagan. The podcast is an open conversation about being mindful about how we show up in the world. It's focused on sustainability and how sustainability impacts every part of our life. What are some of the most important takeaways that people will get from your podcast?
One of the things that I hope that people will take away from the podcast is encouragement. Like, I want them to not feel like you have to spend thousands of dollars to be part of the solution, because, there are a lot of sustainable, things that say sustainability or sustainable, like solar panels or organic cotton and stuff like that. Like, some things are just more expensive because they have that tagline, that phrase or whatever. But there are so many ways that you can be sustainable. You just have to be a little bit creative. And so I'm putting out all these ideas that what people are doing, just to put the thought out there that we can all be part of it without going broke.
So how can people find your podcast?
My podcast is wherever podcasts are found. It is just called Grounded in Maine. I also have my Instagram is where I am most active, and the Instagram handle is Grounded in Maine Podcasts.